How is it that you get into national press? Hi guys, my name's Deepak Shukla, founder of Pearl Lemon PR. We are a public relations agency based in the UK, USA, as well as Uganda, and serving clients worldwide. And here today, in day number 25 of 39 days of public relations training, we're here to talk about how to get into national press. But before we get into it, feel free to click the link in the description below to get access to 11 additional strategies not shared in this training. So look, we've talked about local radio, we've talked about local press, now we're talking about national press. So remember the key word here, national. You need to have a story that's of national interest. So it needs to relate to something that's happening now, or just something that would apply to a big audience, or be of, general interest. So they're the things to consider. So if there's some global or national event that's happening, then that could be one way in to discuss. If there is, for example, something that's generally interesting culturally, that would be interesting to discuss. If there's something that's just out of the ordinary, that would be something interesting to discuss. So remember, when it comes to press, you've got to present something that's of interest to the audience of that publication, and they're really the things to consider. And then everything that we've discussed when it comes to how to, for example, write an eye-catching email to a journalist back in day number 21, that would be important here when thinking about how to approach someone who writes for national press. And then also the importance of personalizing stuff when you're approaching a national publication. So again, building a solid media database for organizations or newspapers that you want to reach out to, profiling the individuals within those organizations is going to be really important. And then just the principle of creating, for example, a Google sheet with all of the people looking at their most recent publication or a publication of interest, and then accordingly crafting, emails around each of these. But then also thinking about so there's the individual personalized element, which is always important. But then if you've got a story of interest that would be of interest across newspapers everywhere, and we'll go on to talk about this, about, virality and getting into ultimately publications or multiple publications at the same time. But when it comes to, national press, fundamentally, you want to have something that really several newspapers potentially would be interested in. So, newspaper one is here, newspaper two is here, newspaper three is here, and then so on and so forth in this bucket, such that you've got multiple publications that could be potentially interested in running, the story that you have. Now, there is an argument that you don't want to fall over the feet of a publication by offering, the same companies an exclusive when you really have sent it to everybody. So you could stagger the way that you run your sends, and that could be one way to do it. And you could allow, for example, 48 hours between sends. However, if it's time sensitive, then I would just go for a little bit of a catch-all approach, depending upon how confident you are about your piece, being newsworthy. So just to think out loud, what are some ideas and angles? Could you comment upon something that's going on right now? Could you have a counter counter to the actual public's perception viewpoint? Could you going against the grain, having a belief that's, alternative, or having just something wild that's happened that, would be worth talking about? So thinking about any of these elements would be good ways and angles to get into the press. And then you need to consider just having almost the top line. So when I say the top line, you want to think about, well, what is, for example, I beg your pardon, what is the top line thing that you could write to the publication or write to the editor or the journo that would be the potential title for the story. So that's the part that could help them envision what the story might look like. So having the top line, and the top line could be, how I how let's think about this, just to give you some ideas. So right now in the world, we've got the war with Ukraine and Russia, and you could write something to the effect of, you know uh, and I'm Indian. So it could be in relation to, the plight of discovering or hearing from uh, Indians trapped in the Ukraine, or the plight of the Indian students trapped in Ukraine. So that could be, just as an example of an angle. If we're talking about, let's say, Valentine's Day is coming up, then you could do something, really quirky for your partner, and then that could be like, man organizes X gift for this, or that could be another angle. And then beginning to tweak and refine those titles to make them more appealing, more, accurate still, but just a bit more appealing. So hopefully this begins to give you some ideas as to what could be involved in getting into national press. So there you have it, guys.